Hello, change experts. Have you ever been in a situation where you joined a project, but turns out it's been going on for a while, and you're worried? You're asking yourself, how in the world am I going to be successful? I'm way too late. Well, that's a common situation, so I'm going to talk about that in this video. Hello, I'm Roxanne Brown, co-founder of The Change Decision. And these are the what-if scenarios change professionals navigate every day. First thing I want to say is this is not an unusual situation, and there are several reasons that could be true. A couple of which might just be practical, like a lack of budget, or maybe you just weren't available. But there are other bigger barriers, like maybe the project underestimated the amount of impact that the initiative would have on people, and they can see now that that's going to prevent them from being successful. Or maybe a leader just didn't know what change management was until now, and even today, that's not an unusual situation. I've had lots of conversations about this question, what is the ideal time for a change professional to start on a project? And after all this time and all of these experiences, my conclusion is that there really isn't an ideal time. The reason why I say that is because no matter when you start, you're always feeling behind. And that's because there's so much to know about a change. In the beginning, a lot of decisions are still to be made, and a lot of implications are still to be discovered. So that's okay. It's almost like you're surfing, right? You're trying to figure out what is going on and what to pay attention to, what's important and what's not important. That's just what's happening. When you first start on any project, I really recommend that you do two things at the same time. First, try to figure out what the immediate need is. And that's so that you can take care of a pain that's pressing and start to build a relationship with the people that you need to work with and have a trust relationship with from that point forward. At the same time, you need to start to investigate in more detail about what this change is, who's involved, the implications, so you can start to figure out what your strategy is. But that's a long-term play. You need time for that. The immediate need is also a big opportunity. Now, when you start on a project that's been going on for a while, you might feel behind, but you can be the cause of a lot of relief if you can tune into what needs to be taken care of right now. And some good clues about that are questions that people are asking the leader or the project team. That should tell you something about a pressing need, some sort of pain point that somebody's feeling. It might be the project team, it might be the leader, it might be some group who's feeling some anxiety about this change. So ask questions about that. Of course, you can always ask the question, what is the immediate need? But they might not be able to answer. So you can ask some follow-up questions, kind of dig in. Good question is, what decisions are people waiting for? What kinds of frequently asked questions are you getting? What kinds of meetings are you having? What is the nature of those meetings? Is it amicable or is there tension, and what's the root of that tension? When you start to ask those questions, you can start to uncover some immediate need that you can potentially take care of. And what I mean by take care of, it could be as simple as a communication that you create, or maybe you bring parties together, or maybe you do some investigation, or maybe you just simply set up a regular communication cadence and you stick to it, right? You keep that promise, even if you just say, no new news, and you'll hear from us at this later date on schedule. When you take care of an immediate need like that, it helps quite a bit. It helps usually the project team and the leader, but also it improves the relationship between the project and those that are impacted, those that are involved, the stakeholders, because they can start to see what's happening. There's more transparency. By taking care of this immediate need, it acknowledges the parties involved that had this need. And it goes a long way to start to build trust. So maybe you're thinking, Roxanne, I don't believe you. I think a change management person needs to be there from the very beginning of the project. I understand that, but you can be on a project from the very beginning and not enough things have been decided for you to act. In other words, the change is unclear. There are still decisions to be made. There are still implications that haven't really been thought through yet. There just hasn't been time to do that yet. And so leaders are reluctant for you to start to go out and investigate and talk to people because it might stir the pot in some way and they might not feel like they're ready for that. So you can be on a project from the beginning and for a while have very little to do. And that's a little dangerous for you because what could happen is people start to question why you're on this project. The other thing they might question is, what's the value of your work? The other thing you might feel you have to do is get involved in things that are outside the change realm. And now you're into project management or other tasks that aren't really relevant to the role that you're playing. And that confuses things. It confuses your role. It confuses everyone involved, especially if they don't understand what change management is or have had very little experience with it. So you can start on a project early, but those are some of the things that can come into play and something to watch out for. Now, it's not necessarily a bad thing to pitch in and help the project in other ways, not suggesting that. But when it does come time for you to start to do your change management work and it really ramps up, and you know it always does, it'll be harder for you to separate from these other tasks, from these other roles you've been playing. And so it's just something to watch out for. So I hope this answers the question, what do you do if you've joined a project that's been going on for a while? You can definitely be successful here. Just focus on those immediate needs while you're working on your long-term strategy, and you will be in good shape.